Hey, welcome to another episode of InRange, and this is a very exciting episode of InRange. I've got Russell Fagan here from KE Arms, and we are officially announcing actual production runs of the WWSD2020 rifle. It's actually happening. As you may well know, if you have been living on this planet, 2020 was quite a year, and the fact that these are now actually going into production, and there's going to be at least the first shipment to Brownells in the next couple of weeks, is an amazing accomplishment on your part because we have faced a lot of challenges.
There's been a lot of difficulties over the past year across numerous aspects of production, outside vendors, material sourcing, all kinds of things like that. And fortunately, everything's lined up now to actually start shipping complete rifles.
So in that regard, this is not vaporware, guys. It's really happening. So what we want to do is, and we know there's a lot of people out there that have done pre-orders with Brownells, but they were no money down pre-orders. They just pretty much put themselves on a list. And what we want to do is go through with you the entire rifle from butt to muzzle device and tell you exactly what you're getting in this rifle so that when you actually put your money in to purchase one of these, if you're on the pre-order list, there's no surprises for you. You're getting exactly what you're expecting, and we want to go through some of the justifications about some of the decisions that were made from 2017 to 2020, and some of the decisions that had to be made in 2020 being in the year 2020. So let's just start with that. So first of all, the very first and most essential component of this is the KP-15 Monolithic polymer lower. And so you've been running the lowers now for a while.
Yeah, I think we first started production at the very end of October of 2020. And something people need to understand about a project like this is we really couldn't have all the other pieces in place, sitting inventory, waiting for this to get done. So once we got really close to our projected date, we started putting out POs for all the other components, barrels from Faxon, carbon fiber handguards, the bolt carrier groups from Young, the silent capture springs from JP. But until we had this, nothing else could really happen.
This is the heart of the rifle. I mean, that polymer lower is essential to the what would Stoner do concept.
Right. So to date, we've shipped about 14,000 as of the day of
14,000 lowers.
14,000 lowers as of the date of filming this video.
That's astonishing.
And whenever you start a new product like this, there are a number of iterative adjustments and changes that occur over the course of production to make things consistent, to make things better. And one of the reasons that we pushed back release of the rifles a little bit is we wanted to make sure that people getting rifles had the most cosmetically perfect receivers they could get. And if you got an early serial number versus one of these, you're going to see that a lot of our trimming operations around the outside perimeter of the receiver have improved.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a student of any of these channels, InRange or in that regard, you'll know that when it comes to firearms development, things have to be modified as you start doing manufacturing functions, right?
Right.
So, for example, fine-tuning how you do final machining bits or something like that, that all goes into it, right. And you can't really get there until you get there.
Right. There's no way to know how everything is going to perform across 1,000 parts, 5,000 parts, 10,000 parts until you actually do it.
Yep.
So, in that regard, everyone to date has largely been happy with the receivers they received. My point is that we're getting better at what we're doing with all aspects of the KP-15.
That makes sense. That's how all machining works. So the KP-15 being in existence and making the What Would Stoner Do 2020 even possible, here it is, a real product, and you've proven it out already on many videos, and as have others, that it's an excellent lower receiver. Go ahead.
One little thing that, because we've had delays, that has been able to come to fruition is one of our OEM clients for KP-15 receivers was able to get a trapdoor butt plate mold done.
Which is really cool. So this is an upgrade for people that are going with the What Would Stoner Do 2020 complete gun. You actually get this. So you actually now have a storage compartment and this little butt plate, which I think is really cool. And it is a neat thing to be able to, this is a good feature. It sounds like something unimportant, but the reality is a cleaning kit or whatever accessories you need in the field, this will come with now every What Would Stoner Do 2020.
Right, and it will be an upgradable feature on receivers purchased from KE Arms, plus $15, or you can buy it as a replacement part for $20.
Okay, so anyone that already currently has a KP-15 can get one of these, but if you're getting a full rifle, you're getting this out of the box.
Correct.
Okay, and then some other stuff is going on as well. So, if you're not familiar with the What Would Stoner Do 2017 project, this all came out of myself and Ian working together on this from Forgotten Weapons and InRange. I purchased a Colt SP1 while on a trip. And while shooting it, I was like, what happened to the AR-15? And it turned into this whole project that lasted over a year of what would happen if Stoner had designed the gun now using modern manufacturing and materials. And that's why we see this monolithic polymer lower. That is a very modern design tactic, right? As well as we also don't believe that the forward assist was a good modification or upgrade to the gun. In fact, the Air Force didn't want them ever. So this upper here does not have a forward assist.
Right, and for the ease of manufacturing, we simply used forgings that we already had that had forward assists on them and machined it off. So that's why you'll see the little landing area on the side there with the WWSD2020 logo. Making a new forging die is another thing that would take time, expense, and you really would be delaying things even further if we went to some other dedicated forging without a forward assist on it. But it really doesn't add that much weight versus a dedicated forging, and we have direct control over the manufacture of it, which allows us to make these much more easily than sourcing parts around.
You just touched on a very important part of this conversation, which I think a lot of people that are out in the world don't necessarily understand this because they're not in manufacturing firearms or in that regard. And so one of the challenges which we mentioned in 2017 about someone building a commercial ready what would Stoner do rifle was that the components came from a myriad of different manufacturers, right? You have barrel from Faxon, lower from KE, upper from someone else, and trying to pull all of that together and make it something viable to put on the market is a very challenging task. So in this regard, by going with this upper, we've sacrificed nothing. In fact, that's exactly what the Air Force did when they ordered their ARs, or M16s. But we've also kept some of the manufacturing in-house to make it more viable to make these guns.
Correct.
Okay, so that's that. The charging handle is a little different. We landed up trying to experiment. We got a little ahead of ourselves, didn't we? In terms of not just ahead of ourselves, but in the year of COVID, found some challenges that ran into that.
Yeah, so initially we tried to do a latchless design, and we ran into two problems. That one, it either didn't grab enough, or if it did grab enough, it was gouging up the side of the upper receiver, which would be unacceptable. So I moved on to looking at different systems for doing an ambi charging handle, and pretty much everything on the market is patent pending or patented.
Yep.
So we looked around for an option that met your goals and was the right price point to include in the assemblies at the existing price, and was available with production capacity to support making hundreds of guns, and fortunately we found one that is.
So what's great about this is this charging handle meets all of the goals which we defined in the original 2017 build, but is now in the year 2020, 2021. It has the gas deflector block, it is ambidextrous, it is low snag, it does everything you'd want it to do, it's very durable, and it achieves the goals that the 2017 gun did in an even better way in 2020. On top of that, a neat little added feature, it actually has the What Would Stoner Do 2020 logo emblazoned on it, which, that's just a neat perk. As for things that stayed very consistent from 2017, we still have the PDQ lever, which is an ambidextrous bolt catch bolt release.
Right.
We have ambidextrous magazine release. We have a ambidextrous safety that is both adjustable. It comes out of the box with a 45-degree throw, but it could be changed to a 90, right?
Right. It is easily changed by the end user to a traditional 90-degree throw, or reconfigured for left or right-handed use. So by left or right-handed use, I mean the arms are different lengths.
Sure.
So for your primary hand, you configure it so that the offside doesn't dig into your knuckle all the time. So you can switch that around to be left or right-handed, or 90 or 45-degree throw.
Totally. And the fire control group is still the excellent one from KE, the SLT1. We went through the SLT1 very extensively in the 2017 project, and it's just gotten a little better over time. As you manufacture more of them, you got better at it, right?
Right.
But the SLT really brings a couple things to the table that are incredibly important, I think, have been neglected by the community. One, you can throw the safety on regardless of the state of the hammer. If the hammer's down, cocked, or in the fired position, the safety can still be engaged. That's a good thing, especially for malfunction drills, etc. As well as we proved on previous videos on InRange, the SLT trigger is very resilient to dirt and debris because it's a very enclosed design. It's very unique. And as a result, if gunk and junk gets into your gun, it doesn't get into your fire control group, which is typically where an AR-15 will fail when dirt and gunk gets into the gun. In terms of the bolt carrier group, there is an entire video about this on InRange, actually, about this particular bolt carrier group, but we'll talk about it now. This is a fully chromed Young Manufacturing BCG. This does have advantages. First of all, we chose this because we do still believe that chrome is the best finish for the bolt carrier group. It was the best finish then, And I still think it is the most practical best finish now. It really is very hard and resilient. It is also very easy to clean. But above and beyond that, the Young Manufacturing Bolt Carrier Group has a couple advantages on it. When your bolt eventually fails on an AR-15, because all mechanical things do fail, it usually fails where the cam pin has been drilled completely through the bolt. The Young Manufacturing Bolt Carrier Group does not drill completely through the bolt. In fact, it's only bored part of the way through, and the cam pin is shorter, thus increasing the strength of the bolt itself. Additionally, the actual gas key here has a recoil lug in it that helps protect and prevent issues that can occur with a gas key in the field. So chrome, made in the USA, improved bolt in terms of resiliency and durability, and an improved gas key made this a really excellent selection for the What Was Done to Do 2020. Do you have anything to add to that?
Another factor that helps is Young Manufacturing is located in Glendale, Arizona, and we have direct access to them and their facilities, and we have a long-standing business relationship with them that makes getting those in high volume during these times of unprecedented demand much easier. Yeah,
you're going to see a trend in this video. You're going to see me talk about the mechanical coolness of why we picked what we picked, and they were all picked for reasons, not just because of that, but Faxon being part of the manufacturing process has a different view into this, which is, oh, that's great, you picked this thing, which is like you can't even acquire these, right? They don't exist. So we have to look at the industry and the world and make sure that this is something that can actually be made, and you're going to have a recurring theme about, is this viable?
Right.
Yeah, but I want to make sure that everyone understands that we didn't cut corners to be viable. We found what we wanted and then found ways to make it viable. Does that make sense? Okay. In that regard, so we've gone through all of this. We do have the JP capture spring. That is retained from the design of the 2017. That has a lot of advantages to it, in my opinion. One, you can remove the buffer detent, which hilariously, there's been a lot of controversy around us talking about how buffer detents break, and they do break.
Across all manufacturers, all makes and models, we've seen between all of us probably over 100 of them break in the last 20 years.
And we've heard actually a lot of stuff from customers and people in the field as well as viewers saying that it happened to them. Now people will say, well, that's when your gun's out of spec. You shoot your gun long enough, you're putting wear and tear on it. Now there's ways to improve the buffer detent to make it less likely to break. HK did that, for example. But in reality, the other thing about this is it's a completely contained unit. So when you take a regular AR-15 apart, if that buffer detent's not there, that all just pops out. But on top of that, you have your buffer and your spring. This is all one thing. You just take it out, clean it, and put it back in. Additionally, it does reduce the boing sound. Not that I care about that much. It is called the silent capture spring. But I believe, and others who have fired this design, feel it also is noticeably better in terms of its recoil impulse. It really changes the dynamics of the firing of the gun. So we have retained that from the 2017 design.
And I will take this moment to point out why we've maintained this over other lesser capture spring systems on the market. Is this stays centered in the buffer tube, there's no sharp edges on it, and it functions as it should. With other lesser pseudo capture spring systems on the market, we have found that they can gouge up or damage the buffer tube on the KP-15.
Yeah, it's funny to use the word lesser, but so what I would say to that is this meets our quality standards.
Correct.
So what happens is, yes, this is a monolithic polymer lower, but it doesn't make a difference. The reality is like, guys, think about when you look at a gas piston AR versus a DI gun or semi-DI gun. When you have like carrier tilt and you'll see like guns get gouged. Well, this doesn't necessarily have tilt, but as it's cycling, it is moving through the buffer tube. And if this is not properly manufactured and centered, it will gouge your gun. And that's just one of the things that we've seen with other capture spring systems. Additionally, this one doesn't fall apart.
We've never seen a JP fall apart on the clock. The other brands we have, it's separate events. So the JP system is definitely more resilient. I do want to note that we're using the standard carbine weight, largely because we don't know what sort of low pressure, low quality ammunition people are going to try to shoot through these, which having a heavier buffer as a default would prevent them from cycling. So if you have a gun that is cycling and ejecting brass at 1 to 2 o'clock with your particular ammunition, get the heavier weights from JP to add your silent capture spring system. But if it's ejecting at 3 to 4 o'clock with your ammunition, don't worry about it. That's exactly where it needs to be.
You touch on a good point. Some people have thought that the What Was Done to Do project was entirely to design a gun based around the idea of the lightest thing possible, and it wasn't. It was designed to replicate what the Colt, the original AR-15 M16 SP1, did in its day, and maintain essentially the philosophical ideals around that. A very light, not the lightest, a very light, reliable, perfectly balanced rifle. And this is one of those components. And so we have made decisions here and there, such as using the carbine weight spring, to make sure that the reliability is there. That's one example thereof. And so while this may not be the lightest AR-15 you could ever make, it is, I'm going to argue, the best balanced AR-15 you'll probably ever hold. To go ahead and quote Ian Harrison from Recoil, he referred to it as a magic wand, which I really liked. I thought that was cool, but this thing is incredibly balanced. It is, the whole thing designs in a way and comes together in a way that the sum of its parts aggregate to better than just the weight in and of itself. But we just weighed these.
Oh.
What did they come in at?
Just under 5 pounds. Depending on how I was setting on the scale and which particular one, between 4.98 to 4.96.
So the complete rifle, without an optic on it, obviously, is just under 5 pounds, which I think we said came out to be 2.27 kilograms. So that's an impressive feat, and it is right there, in fact, a little lighter than the original AR-15 Colt SP1s. So that is directly philosophically in line with the goals. Now, that's in spite of the fact that we actually increased the barrel length. The original 2017 gun had a 14.5-inch barrel with a permanently affixed flash hider because we weren't worried at that moment about being able to sell these to anyone. We were building them as a project. And but when you want to sell firearms in this world, we have something in the United States called an NFA. And anything under a certain length becomes a SBR. And so a 14.5-inch barrel has to have a permanently affixed flash hider to retain legal compliance. And a permanently affixed flash hider means you don't get to do what you might want to do if you bought this rifle, like attach a suppressor or change the muzzle device.
Or in some states, not even be able to purchase it.
That's true.
So, you know, theoretically, in certain states, a dealer could buy one of these, throw a comp on it, permanently attach it, and then it's legal for that state.
Good point. So we did increase the barrel length, which does give you more velocity, which is not a bad thing with 5.56 and 2.23. But by doing that, we allowed ourselves to have a threaded muzzle device, which means you can change that out. And I think that that's a really important thing for people that want to have some level of configuration capabilities in the field.
Another thing to note is at Desert Brutality 2019, we had multiple muzzle devices break on crawling through the mud stage.
Yeah, not just with the What Would Stoner Do.
Yeah.
Actually, it did happen with one What Would Stoner Do gun because it got...
But across the spectrum, if your muzzle device got fouled a little bit, it might be sacrificed firing around through it, but your gun was otherwise unaffected.
Yes, that's right. We saw a bunch of muzzle devices actually explode and do this like almost cartoonish like banana thing,
Right.
But it didn't harm the gun. They could just spin that off, spin another one on, and they were ready to go.
So the muzzle device being a semi-sacrificial piece, whether from that or from dropping it on the muzzle end, is a good thing, and being able to remove it, I think, is an important feature.
And one of the, we learned a lesson there as well, because with the original permanently affixed flash hider, it was just a 3-prong open design, and the military got away for that for reasons, and we didn't learn that lesson when we were first talking about this in 2017, because actually I think it was Yari from Varas Daleka bent one of the prongs when he threw the gun down. So he did nothing wrong. Open prong flash hiders are not a good idea.
I will mention that for a moment we were looking at using titanium flash hiders, and
That's titanium?
yeah, and titanium and flash hider is an oxymoron.
Turns out, I honestly, when we first started talking about that, we didn't know this. At least I didn't.
But titanium burns, and every round fired it looked like a sparkler going off, and maybe you can splice some of that footage we got of testing it.
Yep.
We looked at other coatings even to coat the flash hider with, but with the state of the industry as it was in 2020, we couldn't get any samples through to be coated, and the experts we talked to related to coating titanium said it wouldn't matter, it'd just burn off relatively rapidly anyway. So the difference in weight between the titanium and a steel flash hider was just under 1 ounce.
So we added an ounce.
Yeah.
Okay, so we tried to go real ultra modern with this, and then learned lessons about titanium as a muzzle device. I can't speak to every titanium muzzle device there ever was, but you tested these, and oh boy, no worky. So we tried to get creative, like you said, with some sort of coating or something that's not going to cut it. And frankly, we still had to retain, or needed to retain, the ability for you to change this out in the field, and just went to the standard A2, which actually works really well as a flash hider. And you said we added 1 ounce. With the gun still being under 5 pounds, I think we're okay.
All right.
Yeah. So I don't know about every titanium muzzle device, but at this moment, I am not impressed with that concept. So we got rid of that. We did retain the Faxon carbon fiber M-Lock free float tube.
But we did go longer. I think you were using a 12-inch one
Yes.
in 2017, so we're using the 15-inch one now. If you got the longer barrel, you might as well add a longer handguard for more space for accessories and C-clamping out as far as you want.
And what's nice about that is, since this is carbon fiber, it really did not add much weight. Once again, under 5 pounds,
Right.
and it makes more sense with the 16-inch longer barrel. A couple other caveats that you just need to be aware of. The KP-15 is compatible only with Gen 3 PMags?
Gen 3 PMags, earlier generations of PMags may or may not work.
Well, I think they work. They don't catch the bolt release reliably, right?
It depends. I think there's minor iterative adjustments in the Gen 2 PMags where people have reported some of them work, some of them don't.
Okay.
There's no way to know exactly what that cutoff was. Gen 3 PMags work unequivocally. Gen 3 PMags included with every complete rifle. We've also tested them extensively with USGIs, Lancers, and a couple other magazines. The main limiting factor is with some of those earlier generations of polymer mags, and even some newer ones where people aren't really sure of what they're doing, is the follower length itself is shorter. They made the body thicker to accommodate for the material they're making it out of.
Sure.
And correspondingly the follower is shorter, and then sometimes the follower may not engage with the bolt catch. But Gen 3 PMags are no problem. The flared magwell on the KP-15 makes it compatible with Surefire D60s.
It does.
Magpul D60s and Surefire 60-rounder magazines, and the 100-rounders as well.
So in that regard, if you have Gen 2 or Gen 1 PMags, we're not saying they don't work, but we are saying the Gen 3 PMags work completely reliably and are certified.
Right.
Yep. Is that a better way to put it? And the USGI ones are no problem as well.
Right.
Yeah. So in that regard, I can't think of anything else to say. The reason for this video was, first of all, to have a little celebration to share with you that these are actually happening and going into production and shipping to Brownells very shortly. But more importantly, if you're on that pre-order list, to make sure that you knew exactly what you're getting in open and complete transparency. This is the What Would Stoner Do 2020 rifle. And if it still suits your interests and needs, which I hope it does because it's an amazing design and we've gone a long way to get there, you now know what you're getting if you put your money down on it. There's no question. You're not going to get surprised by anything, and hopefully you're excited about some of the features maybe you didn't know about. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Oh, just thank everyone's patience and trying to keep everyone up to date as things happen with the KP-15 and the What Would Stoner Do 2020 project. And we will keep doing so on KARM social media as things happen.
Yeah, you've been excellent about that. You've been putting up updates all the time about manufacturing processes and everything. So I want to thank everyone out there for watching this, and again for your patience, and hopefully you are excited about seeing the What Would Stoner Do 2020 here. There are now 3 of them. Look at this. Boom, boom, and 1 in Finland, and many more very shortly, because we're talking about going into true production. So thank you for your patience. Hopefully this was a exciting and interesting video, and stay tuned for more What Would Stoner Do content. This isn't the end of this project. I'm going to do other stuff talking about optics and other things, and we will have iterative videos after this for sure. But this was to make sure you knew what you were getting if you order one of them. Thanks.